I think the law does have a role to play in making sure that AI is human-centered. Just like with previous technological innovations, the law has fulfilled this role in making sure that innovation functions in a way that is beneficial to society overall, rather than maybe just the firms that develop it. My name is Michèle Finck. At the University of Tübingen, I'm the Carl-Zeiss-Stiftung Professor for Law and Artificial Intelligence in the law faculty. So over the past 2 years or so, I personally focused on the EU Artificial Intelligence Act and various areas of EU data law and data protection law and their relationship to artificial intelligence. And I'm also one of the directors of the Carl-Zeiss-Stiftung Institute for Artificial Intelligence and Law. And the researchers working at the institute explore different kinds of research questions related to law and artificial intelligence from the perspective of both law and computer science. So the law has always had this function of shaping innovation in a way that it fulfills societal or environmental objectives. If we, for instance, think about the regulation of chemicals or the regulation of food, we can very clearly identify that here law plays a role in managing the risks that can be associated with certain kinds of innovation in these areas and making sure that only products whose risks are deemed to have been managed to a sufficient degree are actually released into the market. So historically, law has reacted in different ways to the emergence of new technologies. I think we can identify instances where sort of the technological innovation came first and then the regulatory response came at a later stage. And I think this is, of course, an oversimplified sort of classification, but I think this is essentially what we saw with the emergence of the internet, where very much the legal response came after the emergence of the technology and the use thereof. But there's also instances of technological transformation where the law very much anticipates this transformation to occur. An example here, for instance, would be automated driving, which is sort of a technological innovation that's very much expected, and where different jurisdictions have taken initiatives years ago to sort of update and prepare their regulatory framework for the emergence of this technology, and in fact to also facilitate the emergence of this technology. We can also identify elements of the EU Artificial Intelligence Act where digital regulation in fact anticipates future technological transformation. So for instance, in relation to the emergence of general purpose AI models with systemic risks, where the AI Act formulates rules which are, I would say, much more forward-looking. Well, data is essentially information, right? So it's the information you need to fuel information. If you think about, for instance, the big AI models that have emerged over the past years, it's from the data that they get the information that they need to produce the outputs that people use them for. So there's lots of complexity around sort of the history of data protection law and the goals associated with it. But I would say if there's one goal I sort of had to pick, it would be that data protection law ensures that people have control over what happens to their personal information. So the European Union has very much been at the forefront of regulating data over the last couple of years. In fact, we've seen the emergence of many new EU regulations concerned with data. So while the General Data Protection Regulation, which is about data protection specifically, was already adopted in 2018, over the last couple of years we've seen the additional adoption of instruments such as the EU Data Act or the EU Data Governance Act. And the EU has very much adopted sort of like a global leadership role in this respect, to the extent that it has regulated data more heavily than virtually any other jurisdiction on Earth. So explicitly, one of the functions of the European Union's Artificial Intelligence Act is to minimize the risks associated with artificial intelligence in a way that makes people trust artificial intelligence. So for instance, the imposition of rules on general purpose AI models with systemic risks are designed to avert systemic risk arising from these rules, and there's also different instruments of regulatory experimentation in the AI Act, which also very much have this function of stimulating innovation. So there have been a whole range of different initiatives that aim to sort of involve people more closely in legislative procedures. I think these initiatives hinge on mainly two factors. One is making sure to explain what's at stake in a way that can be understood sort of across demographics. And the one-on-one is just making sure that people can get involved, which is oftentimes very difficult because most people are very busy and have lots of different things on their to-do list. One thing that I think is exciting about legal research right now is that many people are adopting an interdisciplinary approach, and I think that has a whole range of advantages. This enables us to better understand the actual real-world impact that laws can have, because of course this is something that you can better grasp if you look at how law sort of affects another discipline rather than just by studying the legal rules in and of themselves. I don't know how the world might change in the years to come, but I do hope that it will change in a way whereby technology is actually a means that enables us to focus on other things, right? So that technology makes our working lives and personal lives easier so that we can stop focusing on some things that we maybe do not want to focus on to then really have time to focus on things that we do want to focus on.